Welcome to Great Talking Entertainment official channel. I'm your host, KJ, and this is the YouTube channel where I review movies and TV shows from all your favorite superheroes, including Marvel Comics, DC Comics, and much more. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Great Talking Entertainment official channel. Now let's go, baby. Hello everyone, welcome back, and this is my spoiler review for the new Hulu series called The Twisted Tales of Amanda Knox, Episode 8 spoiler review, aka the season finale of Season 1 of The Twisted Tales of Amanda Knox. This is my spoiler review. If you have not seen this show yet, please pause this and watch all 8 episodes right now, available on Hulu, aka / Disney Plus. Come back and let me know what you think about The Twisted Tales of Amanda Knox Season 1 in the comments below. And before we start, could you please hit the thumbs up button? That would help my YouTube channel grow, and I truly appreciate that. So again, this is my spoiler review. Y'all been warned. Now, let's get into it. This episode starts off on April 19, 2019, as the detective stares at a letter that's sent by Amanda Knox that she wrote to him. On first, he never responded for a while, and as he not yet wrote back, life has just moved on. You know, Amanda has found true love with Charles, and he's had her first child, and finally, the detective, the prosecutor, wrote back, and first he declines it to meet up, but then he sends her a clip, basically just saying that the case for the verdict of it was to create a truth for the case, but not actually the truth that needs to be the truth of the situation. And yet the prosecutor is, still relentless about it, and that's from his perspective. Now, later on, too, in this episode, Rudy is released from prison. Now, he was the male that had the most DNA about it, and he's the one that got his phone tapped, even though he said when he was calling his friend that Amanda Knox had nothing to do with it. You know, she still went to prison for the thing. Now, on November 24th, 2021 at 5:02 p.m., things changed, and now they are going to meet, because he wrote back. The family is definitely upset and traumatized, but they're not, and they're not understanding what Amanda's going through, because she mentions in this episode that when she first gave birth to her daughter, she apologized to her, like saying, "I'm so sorry that I put you in this situation," because she was explaining, like, one day her daughter's going to start going to school, and those kids are going to hear their parents gossip about Amanda Knox, and they're going to make fun of her about her mom, and that's not fair to her in this whole situation. So it's important for Amanda, as a mother, she's looking this through a mother's perspective, that she's got to try to make this right so her daughter can have a normal, as it can be, life when she goes through each decades and semesters of school. I mean, from pre-K to high school, basically, even to college. This is very important because, again, her daughter has no idea what's going on, because in this time, she's just a baby, literally just a baby. So she has no idea. And to go to your first day of kindergarten and everybody's going to say mean things about your mom, it's going to be confusing. So this was a very important thing. But also, too, Amanda Knox in this episode learns and understands what her family went through while waiting and fighting for this thing just to find hope. Like, it was not easy for anybody at all. And, I totally understand that they thought she was being selfish, but this was very important for Amanda. Then that's where we see that her mom was like, I'm going with y'all and stuff. And it was scary, very traumatizing for her. She had nightmares when she got to Italy. She was sleeping and she had a dream that the police came in and kicked the door and took her away. She was scared that the prosecutor set up a trap, which he never did. And it was just struggling. So on June 16th, 2022 at 6:51 a.m., as this all circles back to the first, second, or third episode, to the scene where they finally drive through Rome. Amanda Knox is underneath the cover in the back seat. And then they finally meet, and the prosecutor explained why he was just doing his job. And through this was a very emotional conversation, but it wasn't the best conversation because, number one, the prosecutor doesn't see the way Amanda Knox is viewing it, right? Like, she mentions that when the prosecutor looked at his daughters, he saw Meredith, but he didn't see Amanda when he stared at his children at that time. And that really bugged her. But they found some type of clarity. It wasn't the best, like I said, because at the end, that prosecutor still stands on what he believes. He still believes that Amanda Knox did the murder, that did the crime, basically. And he's not going to change his mind. And he explains what his job is supposed to do. And that was the thing. So it wasn't the best, but she said what she had to say. She heard what he had to say about it, and that was it. And then Amanda Knox reunited with Raphael, and that was a better, positive closure to that chapter of their lives. And they were just happy to be with each other, and they just talked about it. It was very emotional, but things ended a good way. And they finally got back. They went back to the crime, and when she reflected on Meredith, and the last scene was the preacher just going into the confession room, and that was it. Now, I liked the whole episode, but I didn't like the ending. So let me explain why. So what I liked about this is this episode really shows Amanda Knox just finding closure, closing a chapter, and is finally just moving on. She talked to the people that she needed to talk to. She reunited with an old friend, and and maybe in a different timeline, as they put it in their own words, that they could have been a thing. They could have been the one having a family, but life moves on. Obviously, things are different, but they both found peace, and they're trying to just live their life the best they can now at this point. And also, that just shows, like, the courage that Amanda Knox did was very important, to do that. I don't think a lot of people could do that, what Amanda Knox did, to revisit that, to talk to the prosecutor who threw her in prison for years and years, 26 years to be exactly. And to do that, that's very tough. That she's very strong. And that wasn't easy for her, but she did this for her daughter. And that's the most important thing, is she's changed, she's grown. Her just being a mother has transformed her to maturity, And that's the most important thing about this episode, was just they're just saying that Amanda Knox has changed. She's finally moved on, and she understands this whole situation's done, and it's not gonna bother her no more, basically. Now, the ending wasn't good because, well, not good. Well, the reason why I didn't like the ending was for the fact they left it like a cliffhanger, but left it up to your imagination of who was in that confession box at the Catholic Church, right? And you could say it was her. You can say it was the detective. You can say maybe it was Meredith's mother or sister or whoever. But I wish they showed or had maybe just their perspective of what they think went down with an actual scene of Meredith. And I'm not trying to hurt or offend anybody, but I'm saying as a show, just a show, as a series, I wish they did, because it may not be the actual legit answer, but I wish they just maybe just thought what they think could have actually happened to Meredith. And again, I don't want to offend or hurt anybody's feelings when I say that. I'm not talking about the actual real life situation, but just as a show, I wish the ending was just something else than a cliffhanger, basically. And maybe they couldn't legally do that. Maybe the family would have sued them or whatever, which it makes sense to me. But I wish the ending wasn't like a cliffhanger / leave it up to the audience imagination in that perspective. I think this should have been something, just something maybe they could have said, a dialogue they could have done, or just anything, to ensure the audience that, whether this was the true ending or not, but give it an ending, because I don't think they'll do another season, but I think they should have just had a regular ending in that perspective, just based on a show, like. So that is my spoiler review. As I think season 1, or just this whole season, I think this was a really good show. I like the story of it. It's very intriguing. It had that very addictive, like, I got to know what happens next moment. It was very emotional. I think everybody who portrayed each character did a phenomenal job and really brought these characters to life. I like how they show, like, the difference between a trial in court in America versus a trial in court in Italy or a European country type. And I like how, like, it just shows, how they will handle things in a way. And maybe, the message really is, like, the justice system all over the world needs to be better, needs to be corrected. But also just shows, like, the era of social media and hateful comments that can dictate how a trial in court goes, because of people making vlogs. This is probably where YouTube was a YouTube. This just shows, like, for her, she was like, this case was really, to me, her case was really dictated about the media outlets and stuff. And this is definitely the downfall of having social media and the internet at this time for her. And it really showcased that through this whole season, this series of Amanda Knox. And also, again, I like the plot twist, the twists and turns. I like this viewpoint of her, and I think it was really put together very well. And it's not a bad series at all. I would hope that everybody that would check it out. And as far as it just leaving up to your imagination, I mean, it's not a show that really has a true ending, like I said. It just doesn't have it, and that's going to be its downfall of it if people ever rewatch it. And, again, this whole show is more focused on Amanda Knox's life, too. And that's the most important thing to get out of this. Just really focus on her and her family and what they went through with the before, the during, and the aftermath of this. So, as far as a whole show, this was a really good series. I loved watching it. It had a lot of interesting facts, and I definitely would love to go see more stories about this. So, definitely worth it, and I hope I get to see more. It was a really interesting case. So, if I had to give episode 8 a 1 out of 10, I'm definitely going to give it I'll give it an 8.5. Really good. Again, I didn't like the ending to it. It's not my favorite, but it's up to us to decide whether you believe she's guilty or not. In this case, that's up to us. And so I guess the question is now, do I think she's guilty or not guilty of this? And my answer to this, just based off of this show, of this series, I would say I believe that Amanda Knox is innocent, and I believe that the people who were, connected to this case used Amanda Knox to get to Meredith. That's what I think. I think if there was a jealous boyfriend or guys who are just jealous or just had an obsession over her of Meredith, I think they used her. I think they used Amanda Knox, and they might have done the actual crime to Meredith, and which is not fair because, at the end of the day, the most important thing is everybody is families, and the two women, Amanda Knox and Meredith. And I'm not saying this in a joking way, and I'm saying this in the most serious way I can be on here, is a lot of people lost somebody. A lot of people suffered through this horrible, tragic event. And, I wish there was, something the truth will come out. I wish there was something just to make everybody know what actually happened. I really wish we had the technology that we have right now that could solve this case. But, at the end of the day, a lot of people were hurt. There's a mom out there and a sister and family who lost a daughter, a sister, a cousin, a niece, a grandchild. And they're suffering for years now, still today. And especially, with Amanda Knox, her and her family, they suffer too with this whole situation. So I believe that the people who actually committed the crime, just without Amanda Knox knowing it, I think they just used her to get to Meredith. That's what I think. But as far as season 1 of The Twisted Tales of Amanda Knox, at 1 out of 10, I'm definitely going to give it a 9. It was a really excellent show. It showcased, the perspective view from Amanda Knox. It focused on her. And again, this was about her on this show. Now, it should have been a little bit more about Meredith, just to honor her and show respect to the family. But again, this was really good, and I really enjoy it just as watching it as a fan of drama and true crime shows. This was really good. But that's my spoiler review. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Great Talking Entertainment Official channel. Subscribe, hit that notification button so you can always be updated with all my latest content. Thank you guys, and peace